Appreciate everyone's patience. Sorry for being late, but I will call the meeting of the Governance Committee to order. And I will ask for approval of our minutes from our December 19th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Norm. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I want to just set the stage where we're meeting to discuss the alleged conflict of interests of Joe Alaco on the matter of Pittsford Canalside Properties. So just want to recap for my fellow committee members that Pittsford Canalside Properties applied for COMIDA benefits. COMIDA denied the benefits on May 16th, 2023, and Pittsford Canalside commenced an Article 78 proceeding. And they argued that Mr. Alaco had a conflict of interest in reviewing and voting on the application, and that additionally that Joe improperly influenced other COMIDA members. That was taken to the courts. The courts denied Pittsford Canalside's request to disqualify other board members based on the fact that they might or might not have been influenced by Joe. And they remanded the matter back to COMIDA for further consideration on whether Joe has a conflict of interest under COMIDA's policies. The court noted that if the board, through our process, which is spelled out in our bylaws, indicated that there was no conflict, the original COMIDA ruling stands. On the other hand, if we find that there is a conflict, then we will have to basically take a revote and have Joe withhold himself from those deliberations. And that is where the Governance Committee comes in. The Governance Committee is charged with determining whether there was a violation of our conflict of interest policy. And then once we make a determination, we will make a recommendation to the board. And I think our board meeting is on Tuesday, correct? Coming up. So what I would like to state for the record is we have Norm and Ann and myself present on the Governance Committee. Joe, although a member of the Governance Committee, is recused himself from these deliberations and is not in the room. And happy to see my fellow board members, Rhett and Lisa, here as well, observing. So, with that, I will inquire whether there are any public comments. Robin, has anyone signed up to speak, or
No.
did we receive any comments that we should be aware of prior to beginning our? All right, very good, thank you. I think we all, and Norm, we received a pretty extensive package on the, on these proceedings. We received the Article 78 conflict of interest. We received some papers from counsel. We've also received the affidavits and as well as the court order. And I also want to note that prior to the vote on the 16th of May, there wasn't anyone who had brought up a conflict of interest, whether real or perceived, on behalf of Joe, Joe Alaco. And as part of this, in the package, we did seek guidance from our counsel, and they provided us some cases to review. There is nothing that is a perfect match, as is often is the case, but there are some cases that do provide some guidance and some background that we can rely on as we go through our deliberation. So I know I have personally reviewed this. I'd like to just make sure that we'll go through. Norm, have you had a chance to review the material?
Yes, I have.
Ann, have
Yes.
you? Okay, very good. So I want to open this up for some discussions and our deliberations. Before I do that, I do want to state that in reviewing some of the material provided by council, and just as a general matter, that I don't have, that just by virtue of the fact that Joe is in the same industry as the applicant does not per se present a conflict of interest. That simply because he owns real estate, owns apartments, and the applicant does, that doesn't automatically create a conflict, and that we have to examine this further, that in and of itself is not a reason for that. And then we've also had an opportunity to review, like I said, we have everybody's affidavit, so I'll kind of, open this up and, ask for any comments you, Norm or Ann, might have.
Could you briefly just discuss the role of the ethics officer in our process?
You know what, I'm actually going to defer that to Rachel. Rachel, did you hear Norm's questions?
Yes, I did. So the ethics officer is Chairwoman Burr. And the ethics officer obviously is participating in this analysis in her role as that officer, as well as a member of the governance committee. So as ethics officer, Ann has been provided all of the materials that Jay outlined. The committee has also been provided, and the ethics officer will similarly make a report to the full board on February 20th.
Thank you.
It looks like in the packet we have our standard conflict of interest policy.
That is correct.
Did we also have the ethics officer responsibilities?
I read that.
Is it in here? Let's see. Robin, did we distribute that?
That too is contained within the
That's in the
conflict of interest policy.
Yeah, it's in there.
It's in the policy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It basically states what Rachel just said.
Yeah.
Right.
That at the meeting next Tuesday, the governance committee will basically make a recommendation to the full board, as will the ethics officer.
Right.
So you get to do double duty, Ed.
No, I just wanted to make sure that, for the record, that it was noted that there's also an ethics officer as part of the process.
Yeah.
And as we go through the process, we follow that procedure.
Absolutely. So, as part of the deliberation, one of the things that I looked at is, like I said, just by virtue of the fact that Joe is in the same industry, in my opinion, does not present a conflict of interest. And in looking at, I think there were 150 or some odd apartments that were being added as part of Pittsford Canal Side's project. I may have the number, I think I'm in the ballpark. Knowing the Pittsford real estate market, I know there was a development right on Jefferson Road, right across from Locust Hill Country Club. I don't know the exact number, but that looks like several hundred apartments. Those are all full. Several years ago, we had Reedman Properties right on East Avenue, right by, they took down Next Door Bar and Grill, and, right where Kilbourne comes out on East. There were units added there. And looking at Joe's affidavit that he has a wait list for his, his units in Pittsburgh. I don't think 150 units, if you put a compass in the center of where this project, Pittsford Canal Side is, draw a 3, 5, 7 mile radius, 150 apartments isn't going to change the dynamic of that market. And so I really don't think Joe has any conflicts at all. Like, he will not reap any benefits or be materially harmed by the addition of 150 units. There's probably, it's got to be 1,000 apartments within a 6-8 mile radius of that. Just knowing the area as I do. So that's, I'll throw that out there. for comment, consideration. And Norm, if you have any other thoughts on that?
Well, I think when the board members approach any project, we look at, how they qualify, and of course, staff has already done a lot of preliminary work on how they qualify and what our expectations will be when it comes to the board for approval or not. And we all make our own independent decisions. And there are affidavits from each of the board members that attest to that. And so it just seems to me the process was very thorough from the beginning. We had some members vote for the project and others who voted against. So.
It's interesting. The 3 members here of the governance committee all voted for the project. So I lean back on the process and we look at the conflict of interest policy. When you follow the process and the steps within the process, I don't see where Mr. Lacko had a conflict of interest. I always fall back on process, and there's certain things within the policy that you have to meet certain criteria, and I don't think those criteria are met to basically state that there's potential conflict of interest.
And one thing that I thought was very noteworthy is in looking at the affidavits from our fellow board members, to a T, all of us believe that Joe, by being in the industry, actually provides a valuable input, a valuable perspective we don't have. And coming back to the fact that just by virtue of the fact he's in the industry doesn't provide a conflict, that perspective is valuable. And knowing Joe as I do, I believe that if he did have one, he would have recused himself. So it is very, very valuable to have Joe's perspective. I think he has a inside baseball knowledge on this industry that enhances the decision making of this board.
Jay, I think that's the power of the diversity of the board, that everyone brings their different life skills or their professional perspective to the table, and we garner or gain information and subject matter knowledge from these individuals, and I think that's a strength, not a weakness.
Absolutely. Joe's one, Troy's another example. Bringing the local labor perspective, I've learned a tremendous amount from having Troy on the board. So.
I learned a lot from Lisa. Well, just from the town government aspect, and every single time something in Indiana, you get up and walk out. Now you don't have to, but I and then the actual real estate market that you have knowledge of. So.
Thank you.
And that's a perfect example of board members recusing themselves when they feel it's appropriate. So. Ann, any other thoughts?
I don't recall a sense of, that was even the conflict of interest thought was even, going around the room when we talked about the project itself. And we did have some yay votes as well as nay, and we're all here to give our independent position on these projects. And if we're worried about them, or in this case, thought that there was a conflict of interest, I think, that would have just automatically come up during the course of the meeting. It did not.
I agree, and the applicant was in the room and didn't bring it up at the time either.
Exactly.
Norman, any other thoughts? Okay. I want to note for the record that our conflict of interest policy doesn't require this committee to seek guidance from New York State agencies. I know council has been very kind in providing us some prior cases from other agencies, but we have the option to seek out that guidance. My opinion is that this case is not so unique or complex that we need to seek guidance from any other New York agencies. And I think the two agencies, Rachel, are, one is the comptroller and who's the second?
The authority's budget office.
Okay, thank you. So I personally don't feel like we need to go and seek their opinion. I feel comfortable with the material council has provided and our deliberations here. Norman, do you feel like we?
I concur.
And-
Yes, I do.
Okay. So based on that, I will entertain a motion to, if we are in agreement, to recommend that the full COMIDA board that we recommend as a governance committee to the full COMIDA board that Mr. Alaco did not have a conflict of interest and was, he did not need to preclude himself, and therefore the vote we took on the 16th of May stands. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Would like to note that the vote was unanimous. Is there any other business that we need to attend to? No?
I think we've covered it thoroughly, and particularly making sure all of our board members have all of this information, and we've reviewed it prior to this meeting. So.
Yeah, this was very helpful.
Right.
And I want to thank council for all of your efforts and providing some reading for a couple of days. So, hearing that there's no more business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.